Anytime the government gets involved to try to fix things, they always mess it up every single time. And I'm about to prove it to you. But the rules and the people making the rules, for the most part, don't fundamentally understand what the heck they're doing. Today's comments from Janet Yellen were staggering, to say the least.
Will the deposits in every community bank in Oklahoma, regardless of their size, be fully insured now?
A bank only gets that treatment if a majority of the FDIC board, a supermajority of the Fed board, and I, in consultation with the president, determine that the failure to protect uninsured depositors would create systemic risk and significant economic and financial consequences.
Okay, nobody translated it better than Cliff Asness, one of the world's leading money managers, the founder of AQR. He tweeted this out. He said, uninsured depositors are only protected for tech startup bros and other elites on the correct side for deplorables and just for the regular old holy-polies. New rules, said Janet Yellen, the same woman who thought inflation was just transitory. If you're a big bank, we will protect you because we want you to play ball with our ESG and our DEI and even more for our aspirations for controlling the monetary system. Oh, and if you're a flyover middle America bank, we don't care about you. Last week, the rules were if you have deposits above the cap of the FDIC limit of 250 grand, you are not covered. This week, the rules changed. Big banks are apparently good now because Democratic donors keep their money in them, of course. And this is so weird. Who could have possibly seen this coming? Where have we seen this before, though, from the same globalist? Oh, that's right, COVID. Remember? You were one of the big stores with tons of shoppers, Home Depot, Target, Stop and Shop, or whatever. You get to stay open. But if you're a mom and you're a mom and pop shop, and hardware store, convenience store, small town diner, you got to close down, you know, to follow the science, right? But they're never going to let a good crisis go to waste. The Biden administration is going to impose long-term restrictions for short-term problems. The banking industry will bounce back from this. They will recover. But Democrats are freaking out, despite telling us that they are not, because they seemingly can't do basic arithmetic, which is why we're in this situation in the first place, folks. Our economically illiterate overlords created a problem and now want more control and tax dollars to fix it. I'm a hard pass on this one. Why do I feel this way? I'll tell you, I'm very stern on this. Let's look at something else that is likely the next looming crisis, a crisis that the government already has taken control over, proving my previous point that they don't know what they're doing. Student loans. Loans that have been paused and are during a time when interest rates are going up for everything else. The government is holding these risky loans at 0% and requiring no capital payments. Paused. Now, to understand this is, why it's such a big problem, we should first understand the history of the student loan program. In 1958, under the National Defense Education Act, the first federal student loans were created to give purple-haired social justice warriors better access to basket weaving degrees. No, I'm just kidding. We didn't do that. That wasn't even a thing back then. These loans were only given to students who showed promise in science, language, mathematics, and engineering, the things that a nation needs to compete technologically, militarily, and whatever on the global stage. This was expanded in 1965 when banks were able to loan out government-guaranteed money, taxpayer dollars, to college students. In 1992, the FAFSA amendment allowed the passing of interest payments while in school onto students rather than being subsidized by the government. The next year, things really changed, though. In 1993, the federal government decided it could now directly provide loans where previously they could only subsidize them via the banks. Fast forward, in 2005, however, the government really stepped in it here. The Higher Education Reconciliation Act made a mandatory reduction on interest rates from 4% to 1% and allowed grad students to leverage more debt for continuing programs. Enter the gateway of the professional student, folks. American universities preyed on this, dramatically increasing their tuitions in 2005. The outstanding student loan debt accumulated over the past half century was only $391 billion to this point. In 2008, the financial crisis hits and the banks, the subsidized private lenders, no longer had the liquidity, desire, or ability to continue to make these loans. So they also saw the writing on the wall. During that time, in that 3-year time, 2005, 2008, the student loan debt nearly doubled to $640 billion. So our great moral overlords decided, hey, let's take over this lending program entirely and only have the government direct lend. Remember, these rates were previously 1% for the student loan borrower. Funny thing is, the very people who legislated this change didn't still even understand what was going on, and they tried to pin it on the banks.
Last month, this committee received testimony that last year 1 million student loan borrowers defaulted, which is on top of the 1 million borrowers who defaulted the year before. What are you guys doing to help us with the student loan debt? Who would like to answer first? Mr. Monahan, Big Bank.
We stopped making student loans in 2007 or so.
Oh, so you don't do it anymore. Mr. Corbett?
We exited student lending in 2009.
Mr. Diamond?
When the government took over student lending in 2010 or so, we stopped doing all student lending.
Oof. Keep in mind, that hearing was 10 years after that. Good old Jamie Dimon giving a quick reality check there to Maxine Waters. Think about that. Think about that standard of lending. Students are largely unemployed, meaning no income right now because they're in school. The job market sucks, and many are not exactly going to school for the same reason they did during the Cold War, folks, let's be honest. Banks realized this and exited the student loan industry en masse, that combined with regulation, but it apparently is not a concern for our elected officials that a gender studies degree or an art history or ethnic studies or whatever stupid thing these people go to school for now are not exactly a great return on their investment, meaning those degrees likely won't pay the applicant enough money to pay off their loan later in life. We call this economics, but it's a concept that's lost in most of DC. In fact, most people on Capitol Hill don't even understand how a loan or debt works, both privately and publicly. For a bank, and you know this at home, folks, they borrow money from the Fed at whatever the current rate is, and then loan it out to you and I at a much higher rate, okay? The Fed literally creates wealth only after you pay it back. You create economic expansion. This is why debt is the backbone of any economy. It's not bad if managed properly. The Fed doesn't physically have the money they loan out. Rather, it only exists on a balance sheet. It's like a glorified Google Doc. But normally, there's collateral. A house, car, business assets, whatever. Also a credit rating. A litmus test on your likelihood to pay that loan back, making it a reasonably safe investment if properly managed. But student loans, there's no collateral other than, what, a beer pong table and a futon? And most times, very little credit history and any assurance. And the federal government is the issuer and the bank. So by pausing or even canceling that debt, it's essentially more quantitative easing. It's printing another $1.7 trillion right now, which is exactly what caused us to raise interest rates in the first place, which is why our banks are collapsing. I don't understand why they don't understand this. I have no college degree, and I have figured this out. Keep in mind, when we print money and give it to the Defense Department, we pay Lockheed Martin or Boeing or whatever to build a fighter jet or aircraft carriers or missiles. With our student loans, the only asset we generate is a bunch of overeducated, inexperienced crybabies that demand $100,000 salaries for entry-level jobs. It's not exactly tangible assets. More importantly, those defense companies are taxed. They create jobs, they pay mortgages and car payments, etc. The risky loans and subsidies we give to our educational institutions are tax exempt, folks. The Ivy League schools, they take the money and run. They have a combined hundreds of billions of dollars in endowments that grow totally tax-free. Yale's endowment, now over $40 billion. It earned 40% in 2021, didn't pay a dime in taxes. Where's the big fair share, big tax and spend liberals on that one? Our government has allowed risky loans that have a greater than 15% default rate right now, mind you, that you and I end up paying for with our tax dollars to be paid to institutions, take the money and run, who do the bidding of the far left, indoctrinate our kids, and then pay no taxes, have no contributions or liability to the very system that is funding them. This is maddening to me. The total student loan debt in America is over $1.76 trillion. You know what else the 2005 government intervention signaled to universities? Free money. Take it while they can get it. When the government made student loans more available, the cost of colleges exploded. College said, gee, government's handing out more money more easily to our customers, the students. Let's jack up our rates. This endless money also led to places like Yale hiring more administrators than undergrad students. What do? Who knows? DEI stuff, maybe? I don't know. My point is the government created this problem and is now about to blow it all up further with the banks. But the student loans, the nearly 45 million student loan borrowers, they make up the second largest consumer debt in the country, behind only the mortgage market. With the average student owing about $30,000, keep in mind, you, as the borrower, may have locked in 5, 6, maybe even 7%. It was supposed to be 1%. The government got involved. Never mind that. Now the cost to service that debt for the government is rising. Who are they going to pass the costs on to? Further, as the economy declines, there are less jobs, and it's more expensive to live. We're hindering those entering the job market with those risky loans. Those with very little credit history, maybe no capital, from being able to get that first home loan, among other things. You see the ripple effect here? But the really dangerous thing, Biden is using emergency powers. He's effectively paused all student loan payments, charging 0% interest during the pause, meaning those loans are costing us via inflation. Not paying them is essentially the same as printing more money. What's the strategy to restart recouping these taxpayer dollars? None. Nothing. No shock here. There's no strategy. There is no idea how they're going to stabilize it, but there is a strategy to use this to win elections. Mark my words. Mark it, put it in your calendar. I said it today. They will try to continue to suspend these student loan payments through 2024, through the election day, where they will say the whole run up to the election, it's Republicans who want you to start paying your student loans again. Yes, start paying your loans again. Weird. Democrats are so economically illiterate and devious that they will tell our youth a bold-faced lie that will, not could, will cost them jobs, fortune, untold inflation, just to win a vote.